Welcome in to another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. Tonight, we're doing the all-time Kings fantasy drafts. That's right. We're drafting your favorite Kings players to build the ultimate LA Kings team. And we're going to be talking some stuff around the league as well. So get in the chat, like and subscribe. Let's go. All right, that intro was brought to you by Azera. Their new single out now, Blind. Go give that a listen anywhere podcast or songs are listened to on Spotify, Apple Music. Dude, that new song they have out, I know I tweeted it out, is a banger. So if you like that kind of heavier style, they do a good job. So go out and listen to them. Boys, it's been a while. We've been taking our little summer vacation. Russ, you look a little tan there. I like it. Probably enjoying the beach. Joe, I can't see how much sun you've gotten on that chrome dome of yours because you're wearing a beautiful LA Kings hat. But how you fellas doing?
Yeah, doing good. You're right. I have been getting sun, been getting the golf game kind of ironed out a little bit. So yeah, but looking forward to hockey season. How you doing, Joe?
Pun intended. How are your irons looking there, Russ?
Yeah, they're doing all right. The long game is good. The approach game is good. The short game needs a little work. We're working on it though.
That's where you can miss a lot of strokes in the putt game.
Oh, dude!
If you get to the green and you three putt,
that's the most frustrating part of golf. Is like you can hit like a perfect drive right down the middle, and then it takes you 4 or 5 strokes just to get in the hole. It's like, what the hell? But that's golf.
Yeah, that it is. Golf in a tournament over the weekend, it was good. It was, brutally humid out. It was horrible. That part sucked. But that was a fun time. Yeah, I feel you though, Russ. Like it's been inconsistent for me. If my driver's on, something else is off. And lately my driver has been good, and actually my short game has been good, but my mid irons, my approach shots, I'm missing a bit. I'm actually getting saved by my short game, which is pretty rare. So but yeah, other than that, good, busy. Life's crazy, but not like in a bad way. Just is what it is. So how you doing, Randon?
Doing pretty good. Tomorrow I'm just working a little mini day and then going on vacation. So going up to Idaho for a week. Going to be in a cabin. I guess it's not really a cabin. It's really like a luxury home, like right on the lake, with the whole fam. So both the brothers are going, sister's going. I haven't seen my nephews in 2 years. Parents are going, and then my girl Amber is flying back from her duty in the reserves tomorrow, and then we're headed back out to Idaho. So it'll be good. Quick back and forth, but I need it, man. I've been burnt out.
Nice.
Even without the podcast, been burnt out from work. So going to do a hard reset, and then we're going to get back to it in the normal job and in the Kings job. But we're going to have a fun one for you guys tonight. We're going to get to the draft later. It is football season. Everybody's doing their fantasy drafts. I got 2 this weekend. Even on vacation. So we're going to draft our all-time Kings, but there's actual hockey news being talked about around the league. So we're going to get to that here in a little around the NHL in the summertime season here, talking about what's going on around the NHL, and especially there's some big news coming out of the Pacific here. So probably the biggest news coming out for as far as a guy who once was a megastar and has been talked about a lot and was talked about for the Kings this offseason was Patrik Laine going to Montreal. What do you guys think about that kind of deal in itself and maybe the new start for Patrik going across the border, or I guess not across the border, going East Coast to Montreal?
Yeah, I think it's weird. I couldn't point my finger on it, but as soon as I heard the move to like Montreal, it just makes a ton of sense. And maybe it was just more or less because of the contract, and there's not a lot of risk involved with bringing in a player. Like even the risk that's involved for a team like Montreal to take that on, it makes a lot of sense because I don't know what expectations are for the Canadians. I mean, you're playing in Montreal, so I'm sure expectations are always going to be high. But I mean, if you're a realist, you look at that team and that roster, you don't really see much, I guess, star talent that's really going to say, okay, let's like make them like Stanley Cup contenders and talk about them. So for them to bring in a player like Laine, who was one of the most elite goal scorers in the NHL during his first few years when he first made his presence with Winnipeg, and then he's got bounced around with Columbus, and things didn't really work out the last few years, and now that he's kind of going to get this fresh start in Montreal, I think it just makes a lot of sense for something that the Canadiens should take on. And I guess the only thing surprising to me was that there was really no retention involved. But hey, I believe Montreal or Columbus, or no, Montreal got an extra second round pick involved to pretty much to take on that
contract.
To take on that full contract and that cap hit. It's only 2 seasons too, so even then, I mean,
it's probably going to be a. Sorry to cut you off. It's probably going to be a pretty high 2 as well.
Right?
Yeah, Columbus,
exactly.
Right?
I mean,
so
could be a great. Even that point too it's a great deal for Montreal. So you get a player you can buy low, kind of for Laine. If he becomes the player that he was before, hey, win-win.
Yeah, I like it I kind of like it for both teams, but I like it for Montreal because, like you said, the risk is relatively low, and it gives them a bona fide kind of goal scorer to kind of bring them a little bit closer to relevancy. Like it's amazing what you insert a piece like a Laine into the lineup, and it kind of starts to look a lot more competent. I mean, this is a flawed team, obviously, but I think the idea is they're trying to dig themselves out of being a bottom dweller and be a more competitive team, maybe be in that playoff race, to Christmas time and see as we get to January, if they can be a team that's still kind of in the hunt. And, Laine, when we first brought him up on this show, I was pretty quickly a no. As it went along, I started to be like, I can definitely get more on board. I see where the positives are. I mean, obviously the salary was an issue and there'd have to have been retention. So I don't know if it was ever like a realistic situation for the Kings, but I did start to kind of warm to the idea in general for him being probably an intriguing pickup for somebody. And a team like Montreal that can fit that contract, they're missing a player of that type of caliber, I would say, why not? And Columbus, obviously he's going, right? He didn't want to stay. There was going to be a trade. They didn't get a significant return, but like a second round pick. And, Jordan Harris is an intriguing young defenseman, left shot D, still an RFA. He's under cheap team control. So, there's worse moves to get a NHL young, capable defenseman plus a second round pick for a guy that wanted out, who is not exactly coming off, like he's not coming off a big year. So they're selling a little bit low, and I think they did okay, relatively speaking. So all in all, it's a good situation for probably everybody. I know Laine wanted to change, so good for him, and hopefully he kind of returns to form because when he's on, he's an exciting goal scorer.
To me, it kind of seems like Laine might potentially have the career of a what-if career. Like, what if this would happen, or what if that would happen? Like, the talent is obviously there.
Yeah.
But you talk about not being able to put it together consistently. He's been traded or been on multiple teams. Really has one identifying trait. Does it seem like he's the type of player that might have missed the boat on potentially being a great NHLer? And we always will say, what if?
He's still 26. I mean, there's a lot of time for him to still do that. I believe he battled, it was kind of some mental health issues last year where he had a leave of absence, if I'm not mistaken. So, he had some off ice things going on last year, but, it feels like he's a guy that's been around forever, but he's only 26, and he's got another, could be 10 years ahead of him in the NHL. And if he finds his groove in Montreal, this could be a really good goal scorer for the next bunch of years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at his career stats right now. I mean, 480 games played, 204 goals, 388 points. It's like that's a solid career numbers for a lot of people, let alone a player who's still only 26 years old, like Joe said. So, I mean, he hasn't. He's been a multiple 30 goal scorer, but the last one was in 2018, 2019 when he was 20 years old at the time, which is even crazy to think about alone. So. I mean, yeah, if he can return to anything he's been in the past, but even then, like his last year, his 2022-23 season with Columbus, 55 games, 22 goals, 30 assists for 52 points.
Yeah.
Those are great numbers. Those are excellent numbers. So, I mean, I think a lot of it, like the talk or surrounding Line is more or less maybe the outside the rink and outside the arena, all the stuff that he'd been going through. But I think he posted that thing on social media, what him and I believe is either his wife or fiance. I apologize for that. But they're doing like a great thing in terms of mental health and trying to advocate for that a lot more, which is huge. So I think this is just great for him to kind of get a restart. And in an environment that's really, I mean, hey, if he performs well, they're gonna love him in Montreal. They need a player like that to go along. Like Joe said, that star talent has been kind of missing. They don't really have. I mean, Suzuki's a great player, but besides, like, he's not really a household name across the NHL. So to now have a player, a talent like Line in there with Slafkovsky, who's also starting to kind of grow into his own at the first overall pick ago. Yeah, and Caulfield as well too. So
Demidov in the second half.
Yeah, and they got some real young, good stars, and I'll still throw Line in. They're 26 years old, 2 more years left. We'll see how much longer he can perform.
I just think it's something that you know, obviously mental health is nothing to laugh at. It's just you look at there was so much promise when he was younger, and he could have been like he was thought of like a 40-goal scorer, like bam, 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 like that would have been his career, like just a guy that could epically put the puck in the net. And he's missed the boat a couple seasons, and we just, I mean. We want to see greatness. Any fan that likes sports wants to see greatness, and I just hope he gets it back on track. Is Montreal the place to do it? Who knows? I mean, it's very high scrutiny. I mean, he misses a one-timer game one. He might have to talk to 17 reporters about that one shot. You know, so we'll see how it works out. But who doesn't get just one shot and gets multiple years is Matty Beniers, second overall pick for the Kraken. Inking a deal today, 7x7 point, I think 1-4 as I saw. Kind of the deal that we were hoping for Quinton Byfield. Let's talk about Beniers by himself, and then maybe the trajectory of both those players and how they looked. I think the Kraken are probably taking a leap of faith. Heavy positive rookie season, a little bit of slump, and then has progressed after that. What do you think about the contract and the annual value for a player of this caliber there, Joe?
I love it. I mean, I think you guys, you know, we've talked a lot about a lot of these deals over in recent years. We've talked about Buffalo with Tage Thompson, Dylan Cousins. We talked about how we wanted Byfield to go with that, preferred if we could get him in a longer term deal. I think it's really good. I think to what you said, Brandon, this is exactly what I was hoping for Byfield, was this type of deal. I think it's great for the player. I think it's great for Seattle. He's a good-sized, good two-way centerman, and I think this is a deal that's going to work out well in the long run. So they're locking up their star. I love it, and good on them. I think this is great.
Russ, what have you seen from Beniers' game, and then how do you think that progresses him? Because obviously he's been a center since he started. They didn't transition him to wing. They let him grit it out. What have you seen from his game? And then how does that transition to maybe the Kraken taking that next level in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
It's funny. It seems like only yesterday I remember watching Matty Beniers play in the World Juniors for USA. And I remember at that time he was easily the best player on the team for Team America. I can't remember if they won gold that year or not.
That was the gold winning year, yeah. Because we were like, oh,
he was so good. And I thought the Kraken just hit a home run that year just to get him second. So, but I mean, last year, his first year in NHL, obviously the Calder Trophy was great, deservedly so. Last year, he kind of struggled a bit, but I think it was more or less had to do with the team as a whole. So, I mean, for this deal, just for him, it just makes a ton of sense. And like Joe said, like this is the exact kind of deal I would have wanted for Byfield, almost the exact number and term. But I mean, obviously happy with what Byfield signed, so we'll take that. But for Beniers, it's a home run for Seattle and the player as well. So he gets the lock in at a decent term, at a great cap hit for himself. And I think the cap hit will look good in the near future, or even in the longer parts of the deal, more importantly. So I'm just curious what the Kraken are going to be this coming season or in the near future. Because it's like, I feel like they had this momentum to kind of build off of that first year where they won a playoff series and they lost to Colorado, I believe, in the second round. And then that really kind of fell off last season. And I don't know if they really did enough to kind of upgrade their team in the offseason. I'd have to go back and look at some of the roster moves, but geez, even just thinking off the cuff, like nothing really even comes to mind. And now you're dealing with the Pacific Division that's got a lot of good young teams developing. I just worry that the Seattle Kraken can get left in the dust by these teams that might pass in the near future, like San Jose, who's obviously still got a little ways, but you got teams like Anaheim too, who's on the up and up. So unless the Kraken really start to figure things out and start to put the pieces together, I'm kind of worried about them in the Pacific.
They made
Joe,
a couple. Sorry, Randy.
So I was going to say, like, is that stained from Vegas? The thought of the Kraken, like how fast Vegas, and like the fact that they constantly push the chips in, pun intended. Or, I mean, the Kraken's GM, his name escapes me, said, "Hey, we're going to take this season by season, and we're going to grow this team. We're going to grow the depth and all this kind of stuff like that." And they maybe had a outlier of a season points wise. How do you view that team then? Because he obviously had a different approach than what Vegas had, and maybe our memory is stained by the expansion of the Golden Knights.
Yeah, I thought I'd have to look back and see now, but one of the years I thought it was the first year they didn't have a great year, right? And then the second year is when they made playoffs and kind of made that little surprising run, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that was, to me, that first year, they weren't a bad team 5-on-5. They had league worst goaltending and they had like league worst special teams. Pretty bad combo. Like if those just, even just become average, you've got yourself a playoff team. And they did that last year, 2 years ago. Last year was pretty disappointing. What they continued to lack, though, is that impact forward. And they did make a couple of big signings in the free agency. Whether or not they're impact, we'll see. Chandler Stevenson is widely renowned as like the worst contract handed out in this free agency. He's a 30-year-old forward who's a good player. I like Chandler Stevenson, but he got like 8 by 6.25 or something like that. I guess Joel Edmondson's lucky that he was signed because maybe he wasn't exactly the worst signing, the LA defenseman. And then they also brought over Brendan Montour, good defenseman, but their decor kind of has been pretty good for them for a while. They're missing an impact forward still for me. So, can Beniers evolve into that? Don't forget about Shane Wright. He's still there. Can he evolve into that? Eli Toivonen had a really nice kind of resurgence after he was waived from Nashville. So there's pieces here to be a team that is going to be a competitive team, game in, game out. They're not going to be an easy team to play against. The goaltending is going to continue to be a question mark, and I think their high-end skill and probably their power play will continue to be a question mark as well.
I think
it was that second season they picked up players like Burakovsky and Vince Dunn, and that's when they really took that leap. And that was when Matty Beniers was, I think it was one of his better years. But yeah, so I think, I don't know. Yeah, that's why I was like, when I was thinking about the offseason moves, like even Chandler Stevenson the first thing that comes to mind when I hear about that is like overpaid. It's like not necessarily like, oh, he's going to upgrade that team, which he might. Like he's definitely a great player, but it just doesn't do enough for me. Like you're in a division with Edmonton and Vancouver and Vegas, and like I'll even include the Kings in there who've been the playoffs the last 3 years. It's like, how are you going to compete with these teams if you don't really make that huge move? Like, I just think that's something that they've been lacking a little bit.
Agreed. And McCann, I like McCann as a player quite a bit, but you're right. I think, and I do think Stevenson helps them, right? I think in the first 2 years of that deal, 2, maybe 3 years of that deal, he's going to be an effective player, but he's not like a put you over the top player for that team. So, and it's going to hurt in the long run. I don't know how well he's going to age that contract, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're a bad team.
I think Shane Wright's the question mark.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Like the overall nominated, everybody, he's the number 1 overall pick, yada, yada, yada. And then he fell and he fell and he fell. And then it fell to him. And then he didn't make the team. And then he went back in this. So like if he can play to, like a number 2 centerman, a number 3 centerman, give him good minutes, show offensive, acumen, maybe get 40 points. Like, I mean, I know that's a big ask for a guy that was in the AHL, but Kyle, on our AHL podcast that we did about a month ago, said that he was one of the drivers of the Firebirds, right? So he was evident in every single game, So maybe he takes that step. Maybe he just took a little time off the clock that that he needed, and we'll take that jump. What jumped out to us? Offer sheets, boys. Offer sheets. Blues get themselves a couple players. Broberg and Dylan Holloway from the Edmonton Oilers. So Broberg's contract is $9.16 million. That's $4.58 million average value, which resulted in a second-round pick in the 2025 draft as compensation. And Holloway was $4.58 million, 2.29 average value, and resulted in a third pick. So St. Louis, their GM said, hey, not a lot of people utilize this feature of the NHL. We went out, saw some guys. We went out and got them. I think a lot of people laugh at St. Louis, but I kind of applaud them for going out and say, hey, we want to go get these guys. We think they're undervalued where they're not playing top minutes. We can give them top minutes, and they can return this value. What did you guys think of this whole situation here with the St. Louis Blues and the Edmonton Oilers?
I mean, the initial was just kind of a shock that an offer sheet for two players from one team was being presented. It's weird. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to kind of evaluate this in its entirety because you kind of look at it and you think about like what Broberg has done. He's only played 81 games in his entire NHL career. I mean, a lot of people are praising him for what he did in the playoffs last year, but even then you look at some of his numbers and they weren't that great. Maybe it was just kind of more, he just didn't look as terrible as Darnell Nurse or Cody Ceci in front of him. So maybe that was it. And then same thing with Holloway. It's like he's kind of had an up and down regular season NHL career, but in the playoffs, I thought he actually was pretty good. I thought he was a better player than what Broberg is, but Broberg plays a more important position in defense. So he's going to get a little bit more attention. So I just thought it was kind of funny that this was happening to the Oilers, I guess, that we're a Kings podcast and we're supposed to hate the Oilers. So I found that kind of hilarious that this is happening to them. So I don't know if this really impacts them or really in a negative way, to be honest with you. I mean, because they're losing two young players, yeah, but we don't know if they're good. We haven't really seen them really reach their potential. Who knows if they ever really will reach their potential? I mean, Phil Broberg was being talked about as a bust, much like Alex Turcotte was being talked about as a bust in the 2019 draft. I mean, same thing with Dylan Holloway. He hasn't really made a name for himself until just this past season. So St. Louis is taking a really big gamble here. And I think it's another, just like what we were talking about with Montreal, it's the same kind of thing with them. Like they have the ability and I guess the time right now to take that kind of gamble. They're not going to have any high expectations in St. Louis. So, hey, if they're looking for some young talent that's maybe flashed a little bit more recently and they have the money and the draft assets to bring those type of players in, hey, I applaud Doug Armstrong for going after players like that and try to improve his team in a more aggressive manner. And I love the quotes that he had come out today saying like, hey, if offer sheets weren't available, nobody told me about it. So that's the type of GM you want to have on your team. You want to have a GM who's willing to go out and do everything that he can to improve his team now and for the future. And that's what I think the Blues did here. So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts the Oilers though this season, because they're now more or less an older team. But I mean, when you're on the cusp of winning,
they're the oldest team.
Yeah, I mean, when they're like projected to be among the finalists or the top contenders for the Stanley Cup, you can be an old team, right? Like your cup window is now. So for them, it'll be interesting to see how the decor shapes up too now for this coming season, because you look at that defensive lineup. I mean, there's some shaky spots to consider. I know you still got Bouchard at top, you got Ekholm, you got Kulak, and Nurse is obviously still there. So besides that, I don't know. There's not a lot there, but I mean, when you have the forward lineup like they do, I think they'll be all right. I think
you look at this team, and they're getting older, and obviously Joe will agree with me here that CC is a positive by reduction, but I don't think Broberg is. I think Broberg flashed, and they need him to take that next step to that team. And Dylan Holloway had plenty of positive moments in the playoffs late in the season where he was a driver of play. I think that they lost two good guys that could take the next step. We're talking about the Kings young players taking the next step that would vault, us maybe past the first round. That could vault them into the Stanley Cup. And I'm not saying that Broberg is going to be an all-star or Holloway's going to be an all-star, but you need value just like the Kings need value. And they were about to get that value from those two players, and then those got subtracted. And then we also took Fogle from them as well. So like you're looking at top line players that we're talking about. Fogle maybe playing on the first line. Like, I know we don't have the greatest player in hockey and, a top 5 player in Draisaitl, but like, you're going to miss the depth. Like, they had great depth last playoffs. No matter what everybody wants to say, I think it's going to matter. I don't think it's going to matter in the fact that they're not going to be good or, they're not going to make the playoffs or anything like that. But, come the playoffs, you need those players to take that second step. What's another year for Dylan Holloway? What's another year for Broberg in that offense? Could he be a second line defenseman? Could Holloway play top 6 minutes? I think it might impact them in a way people don't understand. And then I got to applaud the Blues for, hey, we're not going to make any noise this year. So why not do this offer sheet? Why not see what we have? Both are first-round picks. Broberg, I think, was a top 10 pick. Or right on the fridge of the top 10. Yeah. So, you're getting a top first-round pick for $2-something million. You're getting a first-round pick for $4 million. Like, we're talking about extensions for Beniers and Byfield for 7, 8, or whatever. If they take that next step and then you have rights for those players and they can be integral parts for your teams moving forward, especially in a franchise, the Blues, who has no prospect pool because they were going for it for the last 10 years, this might be a sneaky way for them to get some top-end players, not for cheap, but in a different way than drafting and waiting for them to progress. What do you think, Joe?
First, shout out to Newfie Pacer checking in from Newfoundland, Canada. Love that. That's awesome, by the way.
Awesome.
Starting with St. Louis, I love it. I don't think it's a risk at all for St. Louis, to be honest with you. I mean, because these aren't long-term deals. These are 2-year deals, and $4.5 million isn't an overpay for Broberg. Yeah, right now, but I don't know. I think he can be – I'm very bullish on Broberg. I feel like I'm probably in the more minority in the hockey world about that. But I think he can easily be a $4 million defenseman. I don't think that's a crazy thought at all. So I don't think it's a big overpay, and they got the room and the space to do it. I think it's an aggressive move, a good way to get a couple of young players in your lineup and see what they've got. And then maybe they become parts of your future. And if not, they're short deals and they can move on. And they're kind of a team that I look at. I don't know how they would look at it or their fans look at it. I look at them as like a team in kind of transition, if you will. So I like it. I'm a fan. So I think it was a no-brainer for St. Louis. Love the aggressiveness from Armstrong. Hope we see more of it in the future as far as offer sheets go. From Edmonton, so I'm looping CC in with this because I don't know if they're related. They must not be related because
that's the weird part of all this, right?
Maybe they were trying to get CC out regardless, which really smart. So thank you very much, Newfie. It's got to be late. He said, Newfie just wanted to say, love your work. And his wife's not happy. It's got to be late where you are. I'm in Rochester, New York, and it's 10:30. So it's got to be late where you are, buddy. So thank you for staying up and listening with us. So I from Edmonton's standpoint, I really, really like Broberg. So I think that is going to be a miss. I think this would have been a really good year, especially with CC out, where Broberg could have gone in and played a bigger role. And I think he could have done that and been an effective player. We don't know. As Brandon said, he hasn't been given like a long extended run as a defenseman in the NHL. So we don't really know. I agree, Russ. I think his playoffs were maybe a tick overrated, but filling in for CC, he looked like a gem. So I just think that Holloway, I like him. I'm a fine player, but I'm a little bit more bullish on the forward depth than maybe Randon is and some folks I've seen on Twitter. I mean, they did lose Fogle and they lost McLeod and they lost, here Holloway, but, a healthy Arvidsson is better than all of them. Jeff Skinner is not far removed from 30, 40 goals. And they brought in Vasily Podkolzin just recently from Vancouver. I don't think there's a big miss. There's maybe a little more risk because there's more age, a little less pace, a little more injury risk. So I'll buy that.
I think they're more top heavy again.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, honestly, because I think they replaced the depth. I think it's a riskier depth because of the again, age and injury situations with some of these guys, particularly Arvidsson, but I don't know. I don't have an issue with that. My issue is with the back end, and my overall theme is because when I tie in the CC deal to it, I don't think the team's any worse. I don't love the decor, but when I sit there and think about it, they made the Cup Finals with a Nurse CC pair. They finally decided to change it and move some things around, but Nurse Stetcher is not worse than Nurse and CC, guys. So or whatever they do in that second pair is better than Nurse CC. So I could make the case that the D is oddly enough maybe a little bit better, or at worst it's kind of a wash. But they now also have a little bit of flexibility to play with to maybe make a small move or two. Or not two, but a small move, whether it's preseason or before the season starts, to add a defenseman, or mid-season as they approach the deadline to add a defenseman. So it gives them that flexibility, which I think is smart. But again, as much as it stings if I'm an Oilers fan, because I do like Broberg quite a bit. The losing CC is so much more of a positive than the negative of losing Broberg and Holloway, in my opinion. That I think the team is arguably in a better roster position today than they were 2 days ago. Not to say that significantly better or by any means, but I don't think they're way worse today.
I just think they're different.
Fair. That's fair.
I think they're more top heavy, and I think that the volatility of an old Skinner and an injured Arvidsson, I think you could run into some things later on in the season.
Yep, that's fair.
I think they're top heavy now, but I mean, the trade deadline, anything happens, right? I mean, and I think that's what the Oilers said, that this was the reason kind of they didn't really want to replace anybody, is they just want to have flexibility throughout the season. And so, yeah, that pretty much points to, hey, we're just going to ride with what we got. And they might be top heavy, but I mean, when you could just throw Connor McDavid out there for 23, 24 minutes, who cares at that point? I mean, the playoffs, they were just running one line, it was the same 5 guys on the ice for the last 18 of the 20 minutes of the third period. So it's who cares at that point? But yeah, maybe you make a trade down the line or whatnot. Maybe you improve the defense that way. But I was going to say, you know how much Rob Blake would have won the fans over again if he had been the one who offer sheeted Broberg instead of signed Joel Edmondson? Could you imagine if that money was used and say, hey, we can't beat you guys in the playoffs, but I'm going to throw an offer sheet out this left shot defenseman who looks so good for you guys in the playoffs, and I'm going to bring him to LA. Kings fans would have been in love with him again. That would have been the best move you could have made. And you imagine a left side defense of Mikey Anderson, Gavrikov, and Broberg? That sounds pretty good.
You know what else sounds pretty good? Askarov in goal. He's available, boys. He's available, and a lot of Kings fans want to know what we should do. And I say, let's go all in. That's how I view it. I think he's ready. He's one of the top goalie prospects of the last decade. I know our prospect pool has gotten better, and Joe's doing the deep backstretch, so I know he's gonna refute me here. But I think that our goalie prospect pool looks good now. We have one goalie that's ready in the next 3 years. All the rest of them have taken a long time. I would be willing to say trade George, who we just drafted, and a future picks, and maybe Kaliev, who knows what's going on with him, for an Askarov. Is that enough to get it done? I don't know. Do we throw in a first? Maybe. I don't know. But if Askarov is on the table, and I think he's NHL ready, that means we have to probably get rid of somebody. So maybe we cut a player. I don't know. But I think he's great enough to be a fundamental piece on this team. I think the Kings should entertain it. They won't, because they're not that ballsy at this moment, but I think they should.
In theory, I think I like Askarov, the prospect. He's a good goaltending prospect. In no way am I going to refute that, and I get the idea of wanting him in LA. My questions are, for you, and you said all in, and for anybody that's in the chat that wants to chime in, what exactly does that mean? So you had said, George or maybe another goalie prospect. Are you trading George and a first? Are you?
Yeah.
Is that your offer?
George and a first, Kaliev I'll wash his car, take the GM's dog out for a walk. I don't really don't care.
Kaliev and Portillo. I'm like, the Predators are going to laugh at that.
No.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to give a first for him because Askarov right now is one of the top AHL goalies.
He was the 11th overall pick in 2020.
He's saying he won't play in the AHL. That means you have to give him NHL time. So do we trade away one of our NHL goalies, which we'd have to? So which goalie would that be, or cut them and take their contract out as dead money? But I think it's worth it. I think the way the Kings are going to operate, Darcy Kemper, either you trade him to Nashville and maybe you give an extra pick for the contract, right?
Nashville's not going to do that. They're not going to do that. They got Saros already. They're already paying him. I'm going to tell you, the trade that's going to have to happen, it's going to have to be a first-round pick and, like, Jordan Spence. That would be the trade. Like, you're not talking – it's not going to be Kaliev, who's probably worth, like, a fifth-round pick at this point. Look at what Podkolzin just got. He's a first-round pick, and he's putting up almost a similar numbers as Kaliev. Would you do Askarov for Portillo and a first? That's still not going to be enough. They're not.
You don't think so?
No, he's an 11th overall pick. I mean, you look at and I like you kind of compare the numbers with Portillo, and it might be kind of close. You might be getting there in terms of that trade, but I think there's a lot of people that are really high in Askarov for good reason, and I am too. Like, I love the personality he brings, that whole like push-up thing he did in Milwaukee. That's excellent. I love stuff like that. So he's got the competitive nature, and he wants to play right now. The reason he's putting this trade demand out there. But I guess just more or less from a Kings standpoint, it's like, why? We just if you had asked me if this had happened 1 year ago, I'd be like, yeah, let's whatever. Like, we don't have a goalie right now. Let's throw some chips in. Try to get the future locked up at that point. And that's kind of the reason why I was on board with drafting Jesper Wallstedt over Brant Clark in 2021. But now you look at what you have in Portillo, who just had an amazing season with the Reign, and you drafted Slakinski, who was just the goalie of the year in USHL. We'll see what happens in college. And now Carter George, who's probably going to be the backup for Canada at the World Juniors, who's looking really good. And I love what I saw at him in just the snippets at Dev Camp. You kind of it's like three for the price of one. It's like, okay, I'll take my chances with these three maybe above average goalies over taking my chance over this one high-end blue chip prospect. Like, that's kind of where I see it.
I could totally agree with that. And again, I acknowledge that Askarov is a really good prospect, but I don't like using my first round pick on a goalie. I don't want to trade my first round pick for a goalie who is yet to, but he's played a couple of games in the NHL, right? But he's by no means an established NHL goalie. And this is a Kings team again. Do they not want to win right now? Isn't this?
But how would Askarov not win right now?
Because we don't know what he is. We don't know what he is.
And Dave is 100, so we don't know what he is.
Let me put it. I get it. Like, I think Askarov is a good goalie, and I don't think he's going to be any worse than Kemper or Rittich. But is Rob Blake going to put his season in the hands of a 21-year-old goalie or two veterans that he's paying handsomely? Well, one of them is
Rob Blake signed Andres England, so I don't agree with his judgment at the moment.
Well, but he's the one making the judgment. He's the one making the calls, though.
I'm just saying, like you could trade Rittich, which is equal cap, right? So he could be the backup to Kemper, and then a first and Portillo, or first and another prospect. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I tend to agree with Russ that I don't think that's enough, but I also don't know if my kid's pretty vocal. He's not going to like, I wonder what Nashville
is. How much did this bring the price down?
Right. So that is the question.
And is this the first time I've ever heard? I mean, we've been seeing this from the NHL for a while. Like, hey, I'm not gonna show up to camp. I'm not gonna play here. They're like you look at Jamar Chase saying he ain't gonna play. Brandon Ayuk is not gonna play. CeeDee Lamb ain't gonna play until they get a contract. Is this the first NHL athlete saying, hey, I'm not going to play I'm not going to play here?
Well, Drew Doughty did it. He ended up getting a contract. He missed like 2 games or something?
Something like that.
Or
but he was an NHL right away. Like, this is like, hey, I'm tired of playing the NHL. I need to be an NHLer. Like, that's kind of what I need to be.
Yeah.
I mean, Voynov did this too. He kind of made that out there. But yeah, I think this is just a goalie that sees, I mean, they still have Saros there.
Yeah.
So
They just
Ashcroft-
signed him, so he has no.
Yep.
Exactly. There's no lane for him to come in and be an established or be a starter in the NHL right now, and that's what he wants. And I think like this needs to be like the Seattle Kraken need to be all over this. Like this is a team that needs a future goalie. Like they
Shane Wright for Askarov 1-for-1.
Possibly, maybe.
I also look at, again, the Kings, they got to get out of the first round. And I think if you're going to spend a first round pick to acquire Askarov, you already wasted one trade deadline bullet on Tanner Jeannot. They don't have a second round pick. If you now trade your first, now you're out 2 picks. You have virtually no trade assets to acquire something.
But you're
of value.
assuming we will need to. What if Askarov takes that next step?
But then you also spent a second round pick on George, another goalie, and you spent a third round pick on Portillo, another goalie. So, I mean, how many draft picks is that we're talking about that you spent on goaltending when we don't know if one of them is going to hit? Like, to be honest with you, like all of them could be busts. You don't know. I mean, goalie.
Well, I just
we can talk about that in the future, but we're at 40 minutes and we still got a draft to do, fellas. So I'll let you get your last remarks in before we go into the draft.
I get the idea that he's a really good goalie prospect. I don't see the fit with this Kings team. That I just think they want to win right now, and I don't know that Rob Blake is going to trade assets into a young player like this. I mean, if anything, it would be the opposite. He would rather trade for a veteran if that were to be something on the market. I just don't see it. And I think, I mean, I'll wait and see what the acquisition cost ends up being for this kid. But I'm a no, just because the Kings don't have a lot of tradable assets right now, and I don't want to spend them on a goalie.
I don't care. Bring him in. That's it.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same way with Joe there. I think it's just I really liked what I saw Portillo. Slakinski, this will be his first collegiate year, so I'm excited to see what happens there. Carter George, everything sounded great with him. Talking with him, you can kind of sense that competitive nature. Almost you kind of get that same kind of Brant Clark type of vibe from Carter George, which is, hey, I'm going to go out there and be the best player on the ice every time I step foot out there. So I like that. But it's all, I mean, Joe's convinced me these last few seasons we talked about. It's like hashtag goalies. You just never know what you're going to get out of these. And especially if you're spending a lot of draft capital and trade assets to acquire a young goalie that's only played 3 games in the NHL, who I believe is still, who's going to be good, but that's so much risk. It's like we talked about with Patrick Laine, how the Habs are doing it. I mean, it's a totally different situation, but they're taking on really no risk at that point by trading for Laine. This would be a ton of risk trading for a goalie that we don't know how good he's going to be in the NHL, even though there's a lot of talk behind him. But yeah, it's risky.
Well, Askarov, I wanted all the risk, and if you're listening, throw some Russian vodka my way, please. We're getting here with DraftKings. They're our number one sponsor here at the THPN. You know what's a beautiful thing when being a sports fan? There's only 2 days left in the whole year without a game. 2. With so much happening and so much action, that makes about every game that day on DraftKings Sportsbook that much more memorable. Super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. Go to DraftKings and Sportsbook app, select your team, place your first bet. It really could not be much more simpler. All you people in the Southern California, USC is going to the Big Ten, but their first matchup is against LSU on September 1st. Over-under for points is 64. That is going to be a game. -110 there. The spread is +6 for USC at -110. So get the odds there on your team in Southern California because it's going to be going fast. And if you're new to DraftKings, you just got to check it out. New customers bet $5, get 150 bonus bets. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers up to 150 in bonus bets. If you just throw a little 5-ski, little Lincoln our way, only at DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in West Virginia, that is www.1800gambler.net. New York, call 1-877-8. That's HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for all people who have gambling problems. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Indio Casino. 21 age, jurisdiction varies. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Deposit eligibility restrictions apply. See terms and responsible gaming resources, dkng.co/.base. Man, that legal jargon gets me caught up every single time. Well, we're in for the main event. It's draft time, everybody. It's draft time. So we're going to get here. Your Kings, we'll throw it in here. We'll get everybody on that little left side there. So if you're watching on YouTube, we have the screen up. We got everybody's team. So what we're doing is we're drafting the all-time Kings team. Our boy Russ has got the number 1 pick. Then we got Joe. Then we got me. We're doing a little snake draft. And the stipulations are this. If you're drafting a player, how is he playing on the Kings roster? For example, Jerome McGinley, Hall of Famer, would love to be on any roster. All the boys would love to draft Jerome McGinley. But he was old, and he was in the end of his career on our team. So if the player was not good on the Kings roster, he's not good in this draft. So by the other side, if they only played 1 season, but he put up a lot of points, or if he's a new player and he put up a lot of points, he could be put right there. And so we're going to get started in this. Please, the fans in the chat, tell us your picks. But Russ is getting started here. Russ, where are you going with the number 1 overall pick for the Hockey Royalty, LA Kings all-time draft?
Yeah, so I had to ask Randon for those listening. I had to make sure, like, this. We're drafting a team to win games, right? We're not drafting like
we're winning a series, yeah,
who we think are like the best Kings of all time. Because obviously, if I was drafting the best Kings of all time, I think the first pick we could all probably agree would be Anze Kopitar. But if I'm trying to win a game and I'm trying to draft the best player, I'd probably have to draft the great one. So I'm going to go with Wayne Gretzky as the first pick.
That would have been mine, Russ.
I kind of have to, right? It's like,
yeah, that's the obvious choice. But I was happy to have the 2nd overall pick, actually, because it left me with either Wayne Gretzky or Anze Kopitar. And I am very happy to select Anze Kopitar with my 2nd overall pick, or with my 1st overall pick, because I think you got to be strong down the middle. Obviously, Russ, tough to be much stronger down the middle, but I'll take Anze Kopitar.
So I was thinking about this because I knew I'm on the tail end here. I got the circle or the serpentine, and I figured one of you guys would take Wayne, and I figured maybe another one would go forward. I'm going to go a different direction here. I'm going to take the best goalie to ever play for the Kings, the best North American goalie of all time, probably one of the best goalies of all time. I'm taking Jonathan Quick because we only get 1 goalie pick, and there's another one in the system, but I think Quick is probably one of the best goalies of all time, probably top 5, top 10. And I think if you're talking about a series, if we're playing a series here, he obviously took over the series in 2012, and was instrumental in that thing. And he's huddled up 2 cups. I'm taking Jonathan Quick with the first pick in my draft. What do you think, boys?
I was wondering when he was going to go. I figured he would be the first goalie gone. And Randon, before you get to your next pick, I actually wanted to ask you, because this is different, right? Russ and I think, are of similar ages, or at least similar Kings fandom dating back to the early mid 90s. Randon is not. He's much later, right? So I'm interested to see how you go about this draft and how much consideration you give to, historical players, because it's tough, right? And you too, even Russ, because there's players from before our time that are obviously great Hall of Fame players that we didn't watch play. So it's hard for me to really lean into them in a draft like this. Then again, it's also hard to ignore the production that they had. So I think that makes this kind of interesting, Randon, and how you approach this as a relatively new Kings fan and hockey.
I did a bit of research. I mean, like, I'm with you, Joe. Like, we probably didn't watch a lot of the games in the 70s and 80s, but I mean, the numbers are still there. So
there's great players.
There's records, and there's a Hall of Fame to consider. So
absolutely, no question, no question.
But yeah, I mean, hey, but this is a vibes podcast. You never know. I mean, I might draft Vladimir Tkachev my 2nd pick. I
thought about that, actually.
So I think my strategy's working out so far. You guys were taking the 2 top guys, starting down the middle. I'm going to play some defense here. And I think I'm going to take the most dynamic defenseman on all of the LA Kings and Drew Doughty with my second pick here on the turn. I think he is probably the best offensive defenseman. I think he's probably the best defenseman in the Kings roster. So I'm going goalie, defenseman. I'm getting some power play right there with the point. You guys took the best centerman there. That's where I'm going in this draft. So get the defense. You guys went offense. I'm going defense, and I'm hoping to maybe some guys fall to me when the turn comes back around. Joe, where's your pick on?
Going to be honest, I was kind of hoping to end up with a Kopitar Doughty combo to start. So you definitely took one of mine there. Here's the thing. For, I don't know, his entire LA Kings career, Anze Kopitar has been searching for a left winger. Let's give him a left winger and Luc Robitaille.
Okay. All right.
That's
I like it.
bad. You could do worse.
I wasn't sure where I was going with this position-wise. But
like hypothetically, could you imagine Anze Kopitar playing his entire career with Luc Robitaille? Like we've been asking for a left wing for him to play with, like his entire career. Why don't we just give him the best left wing of all time? Like, that sounds good. But I like it.
Yes.
So I'm at the turn, right, for the second and third.
Yeah, you get a little double here.
So I get a little double. So, man, I mean Wayne Gretzky, Bernie Nichols.
Ooh,
they put up some points together. So you know what? Let's go there. Let's go a little Wayne Gretzky, Bernie Nichols action.
Okay.
Bring the 90s back. Hey, the Kings are bringing the 90s back with the logo and logo change. I'm bringing the 90s back too.
So that's before my time. So was he you put him a second line center? Or you put him on the wing?
I'm putting him on the wing.
All right.
Or you know what? Let's put him on the center. I'll make him play center though.
Second line center.
Pretty good. He did both. I'm pretty sure.
He did both. I'm pretty sure.
You're taking him as your second line center, or you put him on the wing with Wayne?
I'm gonna do center. And I'm gonna see how the rest of my draft shapes out before I consider.
That's not correct.
But I think he's
how do you spell his last name?
N-I-C-H.
Nichols. Right.
2 L's.
2 L's.
2 L's.
There we go.
English was never my strong suit, so I probably should not be the person typing on LinkedIn. But Joe,
no,
you're one pick away.
Yes.
Maybe a guy will follow you. Russ, who is your next pick?
So actually, now I know why I wanted to put Bernie Nichols at wing, because I'm going to go with another center, and I'm going to go with Marcel Dion.
Oh, you son of a bee.
Okay.
So that's why I had Nichols at center. Because in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, like if I don't get this guy, I'm going to get this guy. And yeah, so I'm doing Marcel Dion. So a 1-2 punch Wayne Gretzky Dion is not bad, right? Like let's put Nichols up that top line with Gretzky.
Okay, I think so you are putting Nichols with Gretzky. Okay.
I am going to put Nichols with Gretzky.
All right. On the left wing, it doesn't matter because they're all wings.
Left,
now.
Right. We'll figure it out as we go.
It doesn't matter.
Right shot? I think it was a right shot, right?
He was a right shot.
Dion, right?
Yeah.
There we go. All right, Joe. I mean, I was hoping Dion would fall. You guys took some big centers going in. I might be lacking in the forward group. Where are you going with this pick in the middle?
Hey, he may not be able to draft a decor or I should say acquire a decor or build a decor, but Rob Blake could play a defense when he played. So Rob Blake is going to be on my anchoring my blue line.
I like it. And, Rob Blake, can run a power play. He's got some little physicality to him.
Yeah.
But you know who has the most physicality of all time for the LA Kings? I want some panache. I'm going some grit with this team. I'm taking Dustin Brown with at the wing right here. We want to make a statement. We're trying to win a series here. You guys are taking some flashy guys. You guys are taking some pizzazz guys. We're stopping the puck. We're hitting you in the face. And that's what's going on here. So I like Dustin Brown. Now I'm trying to figure out where I'm going else with this. And I don't know who's going to play center, but I know who's going to play wing on the other side, and that's Mr. Taylor.
Ooh,
Mr.
Okay.
Taylor's going to play
Like
the
it.
wing. I don't know who's going to center them at all, and we'll figure that out when it comes down to my side. But Mr. Taylor is going to be playing the wing. Underrated, and I think he is probably a top 10 king of all time. But here he sneaks in on the wing. We just need to find a guy. Could that be Quentin Byfield? Could that be a little Carter? I don't know where that's going on, but Joe, it's back to you.
Oh boy, I've got a couple of guys. This is where it gets tricky because I have guys I really like. I am starting to get a little because Russ taking Nichols, taking Dion. He's already got Gretzky. I think I need another center here. I've got my anchor on the blue line. I'm going to go with Jeff Carter. I think he was an excellent, obviously instrumental in those 2 cups for the Kings. Really changed everything when they brought him over. That really kind of established them as a legit cup contender. And I think him centering my second line should do just fine.
I think I gave you that pick. I think I literally just gave you that pick. So kind of upset about that.
You did not. You did not.
Kind of sniped me. But Russ, you got the turn here. You got the back-to-back. Where are you going with this, buddy?
So I think I need to find a winger for my other center. So I'm going to get 2/3 of the Triple Crown line. I'm going to get Charlie Simmer to play with Dion. So get those two, get that chemistry going. And I think I need to go defense here. And like I told you guys earlier, we didn't really watch a lot of games, so obviously in the 70s and 80s, but the numbers are still there. So I'm going to go with the guy who put up the most points in a single season by a defenseman in Kings history. His name's Larry Murphy. So I'm going Larry Murphy.
Yes.
And I'll go. That'll be my first.
Right or left? Is he a right or a left?
Please,
or do you care?
I don't personally care.
He's a right shot. I forgot all about
a right shot.
Yeah, he is. I forgot all about him. I don't know why I always forget about
76 points as a 19-year-old in 1980, 81 in 80 games.
There you go.
That's not bad.
There you go. Not bad at all.
Always think of him like with Detroit, for some reason. So he went Simmer and Murphy. Okay, so it's back to me.
Murphy.
This is probably going to be off the. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not.
I think I know who you might go here.
I'm going with a winger. He's going to play.
Okay.
So my top line is going to be Kopitar, Robitaille, and for now, no. You know what? Put this guy in my second line next to Jeff Carter. It's going to be Ziggy Palffy, left winger. Excuse me, next to Ziggy Palffy.
I was hoping he was going to fall, man. I was going to go a no center.
There is no
draft.
way.
No center draft. Just
was not on this team.
I love it.
You put him under your name. I don't think that's
because I was trying to sneak him on. All right, so Joe Ziggy
left wing.
Second line.
Left wing.
Okay, shit. All right, there we go. Sorry, French.
Ziggy P. Offhand, but either way.
Sorry, this is the first time we've ever done this. I'm trying to figure this out on the fly. So
I like it.
I like the pick. It fell to you. I mean, it definitely fell to you, and I understand where you weren't going with that. And we're trying to figure out what's going on here for the team. But I'm gonna take one of the institutions of the LA Kings.
Mm.
Known on the rink, known on the mic, Mr. Jim Fox.
Yeah, he was on my.
Mr. Jim Fox taking it from me. I'm taking on the wing. I'm taking nothing but wingers. I'm gonna have no centers. Nobody's gonna face off when you're playing against me. But we're gonna figure it out. So Jim Fox going right there. I think we can do it on that style. So now I got to figure out where we're going here. I got to get the moves going. I got to get the sway going. And I really think that this player has the pizzazz. And if we're talking about the criteria of his best season as an LA King, I'm going to take on wing Adrian Kempe. So
Okay.
40 goal scorer. You have a guy who has dominated on the penalty kill. I'm going to take Adrian Kempe. I have no centers, but I have all my wings ready to go. So Adrian Kempe. You're up, Joe.
I'm going with another one of my favorites. This one is probably going to be off the board, but in today's hockey, you need defensemen that can move the puck. You need defensemen that can skate, and Lubomir Visnovsky could do both.
Oh.
So give me some Lubomir Visnovsky to play.
I had a
LB1.
Larry Murphy Lubo pairing in my head, Joe. Man, Lubomir Visnovsky and Rob Blake together. It sounds like a lot of fun.
There we go.
So he's a lefty for you there, Joe?
Yes.
Lubo.
I like for how sad and depressing the Kings were at times during the 2000s. I mean, watching Lubomir Visnovsky was one of my joys that probably made me fall in love with hockey. It was so much fun.
Yeah, a few players in those like early aughts that were good, that were at least made the Kings watchable because it was tough times for a while there.
Yeah, it was really bad. 67 points in 80 games in 2005, 2006.
Oh, yeah.
For
He
Lubo.
could play. Hell of a
He
play.
could. All right. So, since Joe sniped me, I think I'm going to go.
The amount of people, by the way, that are screaming at this, that when they're listening to this, that we're leaving off some like obvious players that they would rather pick. It's probably inevitable.
If you're in the chat right now live on YouTube, give us your
No, actually, I'm going to go with one. Yeah, I'm going to go with a player actually I liked watching as a kid.
All right.
So this is a vibes pick. I'm going to go with Thomas Sandstrom.
Oh,
yeah.
He was going to be on my third line.
I'll put him on that right wing with next to Wayne G and B Nichols.
Wow.
So I'll go there.
Sure, that's not how you spell it, right?
No, you're good. Yeah, Sandstrom. Oh man, and
again, English is not my strong suit. All right, here we go.
So
where are you going in the back half of this?
Yeah, I don't really like this guy now because of recent history and things he's said, but I think I'm going to go with Paul Coffey.
Oh.
He's coaching the Oilers. I think he made those comments about Dustin Brown and his statue. But you know what? I like solidifying that first unit, that first even strength unit right now. You get a nice defense of Paul Coffey, Larry Murphy, and then you have a pretty solid forward trio of Gretzky, Nichols, and Sandstrom. I think that's not bad. I like the recommendations in the chat though.
The Dowdy statue is rough. Although I'm sure you were
the Brown statue.
The Brown statue. Excuse me.
Like, dude, come on.
So good. So right now we got through a couple rounds. We got the all-time draft of Russell going with Bernie Nichols and Sandstrom winging up Wayne Gretzky. We got Coffey and Murphy, Dion and Simmer in the second line. Joe, we got Luke Robitaille on the Kopitar, Lubo and Blake on your back end, and Ziggy and Carter there. I got no centers. I got all wings and defensemen and the best goalie who ever lived. So we'll figure this out. Where we're going here is our next sponsor and BetterHelp. So this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. And what you might ask is what BetterHelp is. Well, it is a place where you can talk about whatever you want. So your schedule's packed, your kids with activities, work projects, and more. It's easy to let yourself slip into what am I doing for other people? If I've benefited from therapy, you can benefit from therapy. So I would say that, hey, just talk to somebody. Get out there, do all these kinds of things. BetterHelp can help you with that, to let yourself go and get rid of the day-to-day. So never skip on therapy day. BetterHelp is there for you at all times. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. You can get 10% off your first month. So go out there with BetterHelp and get a better self with BetterHelp on that. Well, I don't know. I was trying to come up with a better like word.
It's almost like a tongue twister.
Just I can't nail it out every single time, but it's awesome. So BetterHelp is ready to go. So let's do it. Whose turn is it?
Yeah, it's mine. I'm going to stay on the wing.
Okay.
I'm gonna fill out my first line, and I'm going to have Alex Frolov.
Hell yeah.
USOB.
I just again vibes. For me to have Ziggy, Lubo, Frolov, Kopitar, Robitaille, these are literally my all-time favorites. But you know what? I think I put him on the top line with Kopitar.
I like it.
And Robitaille. Nobody's touching the puck on that line with Kopitar and Frolov.
At least along the wall. Yeah, the puck is not leaving the wall. It's going to stay along the wall the entire time until Luke Robitaille half slaps it in the slot. Yeah. There's a lot of discourse around Frolov for some reason. I was maybe
in
too
what
young.
way?
Loaf? A lot of people call him Frolov.
Well, that's just I got no time for them.
Yeah.
Because I got no time for them.
I loved Alex Frolov.
The way he used his body to protect
Yeah, along the wall, you weren't taking the puck away. So good.
I love him. He's making my roster.
So with our challenge here was when they play for the Kings, what was their peak? And right now I'm missing some centers, boys. I'm missing some centers.
You are. But there's
some people out there, and I'm taking the center who got us our first Stanley Cup, who's an integral part.
I think I know where you're going.
Mr. M. Richards, baby.
Yeah, another favorite of mine.
And I'm
that's a solid pick.
I'm falling back here. You look at his regular season stats and you look at everything like that. But what he did in his peak as an LA King, he brought us the cup. I'm taking Mr. Richards here to center the line of D. Taylor and Dustin Brown. You guys won't be able to match the physicality of our roster here.
I mean, you ain't lying there.
I do have Rob Blake,
Taylor, Richards, and Dustin Brown. Yeah, that's a physical forward line.
Little saucy, little forward line there. So now I got to figure out where I'm going here. Do I go to, another forward? Do I just solidify what's going on here? I'm going to go with more physicality. And I'm not that type of guy, but I'm going with Tomas Sandstrom here.
No,
hey. You can't. We're not making trades here.
Oh, did you already grab him? Did I already throw him?
Already grabbed him.
He's a defenseman. Why did I put him in your fucking wing? Okay.
No, he's a winger.
Is he really? No, he's not.
Sandstrom's a winger.
No, he's not. Your Kings fans are screaming at us right now.
To the site that okay, yeah, he is. All right. I was like, dude, he's a defenseman. I'm like, I gotta get him on my team. This one site. All right. I'm gonna let's take a break. No, can't take a break. So I'm gonna take Jake Muzzin.
Okay.
For the left shot D there, because I think during his prime of his career, he was one of the top guys. So Sandstrom, let's go Control Z. Give me that. There we go. We'll do Muzzin on the left side there. Joe, what are you doing?
The Jake Muzzin Drew Doughty pairing was probably one of the best analytical pairings of all time. It was really good. Yeah,
that was. They were good. I'm in a bit of a bind here on what I want to do. I think though I'm going to go with.
You guys are playing pickle right now. Who's going to take the goalie?
No, well, I'm not.
Sean's a Hall of
I think
Famer,
we
right?
both have an idea. I have an idea what Joe's doing, and I think Joe has an idea what I'm doing.
I'm not picking a goalie. I can tell you that right.
It's like my quarterback.
Yeah, that's
just
not
wait
happening.
To get who I get.
I am actually going to go with another defenseman, and I'm going to go way back to the early '90s. And he was young in his career, but Alex Zhitnik, left shot defenseman, came on the scene with Los Angeles. Was a really good defenseman. I'm pretty sure for Buffalo. Actually, it was really good for Buffalo for years. But I was a big fan of his in the early days. Again, so what this is bringing back is like old video game lineups and stuff from like NHL '93 on Sega Genesis, and like it was awesome. So Alex Zhitnik, throwback lefty. So I'll be honest, I'm going the exact opposite of modern day LA Kings with Lubo and Zhitnik on my left side.
I like it. I'm going to build. I think I'm going to build my next D pair here. Let me just check something out. Let me see something here. Okay. So I have a lefty and a righty. My first pick is going to be Steve Duchesne.
Okay.
Or to play the left side.
I like it.
And I feel like I need to match the physicality that Randon puts out there. So that way, when he has his physical lineup out there with Dave Taylor, Mike Richards, and Dustin Brown, I'm going to go ahead and counter that with a little Steve Duchesne and Marty McSorley.
Oh, Marty McSorley. Okay.
I'm going to go Marty McSorley.
Okay.
And we're just going vibes here.
How do you spell that? MC
SORELLY, I believe.
LEY.
LEY. Okay.
Start again. MCS
ORESORLEY.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry for all you listeners. That was awful podcast. Joe, he's going back-to-back defense. Where are you going?
I'm going to go with. I mean, I have room on my right side. Might as well bring another part of the 70s line. I'm going to put Tyler Toffoli on the right side with Jeff Carter.
All right.
That may be showing a little bit of recency bias, but
tough. There you go. I like it. Though. I think that one, chemistry. Two, you're on all forwards.
He is.
No goal.
There's a lot of skill.
For a
in
guy
that.
who loves building. Well, he does have his top four defensive lineup.
Yeah.
Really
I think
solid
it's interesting here. You have some guys building it up. Let's go to my next pick. I think, man, where do I go? Do I need another center? But you guys have always taken all of them. Where do I go from here? I think I'm going to go another winger.
I think Chat was trying to tell you. Chat was trying to tell you a center to pick too.
All right. Well, I already have Richards though. No. We're going to go with Yari Curry on the wing. We have a third line going on. I'm going to build that line here. I'm going to find some center depth elsewhere. We're just going to get goal scoring. We're going to figure it out. So I'm going Curry. And then, man, you guys, once I took Quick way early, I think. No, because somebody else would have taken Quick, but
I would have taken Quick pretty early too. Like he's a game breaker, I feel like.
Man, so how do I go? You know what? I'll do it. The second center is going to be Jano.
Dano?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
Because right now, that's all I need. PD right there.
The old heads are going to hate you. The young bucks are going to love you.
I like it.
Is that You only had one pick. I think you have another one. No.
No,
Oh,
I
you
already
put
made a
Curry.
pick. Curry.
You had Curry.
He picked Jari Curry. Okay, let's see who's next for me. Do I go? You know what? Just to be safe, and I don't want Russ. I don't know where he's going to go, but I'm going to take my personal favorite Kings goaltender in Kelly Rudy.
Okay, I'm not upset with that.
I know I'm leaving a Hall of Famer out there for you, but
I'm not even taking a Hall of Famer, to be honest.
Oh,
I should. I probably should.
You're going off the board.
Now you're putting me in a corner here because I'm kind of.
Well, you can at least think about it because they only have one goalie, so you could just wait till the end.
Exactly. I'll think about it. That's going to be sitting in my head for.
How do you spell his name?
HRU.
HRUDEY. You guys can tell that I don't have that history.
That's another early 90s, mid 90s Kings throwback.
It is. All right. I feel like I need a center, and I've seen some good center names in the chat. I know Al Smith has mentioned Jimmy Carson.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Butch Goring, which is another one. Carson mentioned him. I'm going to go with a player who I felt like injuries just really took his toll on his tenure with the Kings, but when he was healthy, he was outstanding, and that's Mr. Jason Allison.
Okay.
For my third line center. And then for another winger, part of me really wants to take, and you know what? I'm going to take Kevin Fiala.
Yeah. Okay.
We're scoring goals here, baby. We're scoring goals.
Is that on your second line, Fiala?
Yeah, might as well.
All right, Joe.
So I have been debating on going with a center here, and his name actually just popped into the chat. Chicken Parm, Tony Granato. Not Tony Granato. Ray Ferraro. Jesus. Good Lord. Ray Ferraro.
They were teammates, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah. Maybe play on the same line. And it's Jason Allison there, Randon. Not Jimmy.
No.
So he'll be my third line center behind Kopitar and Carter.
Chicken Parm. There you go.
I literally read Tony Granato as I was saying chicken parm. What the hell is that?
Wow. All right. So that came back really quick. Man. All right. Let's go. Let's flip this around. I don't know where I'm going with this. I think I need to play some defense here, which I've already played plenty of defense.
They're missing two defensemen, huh? You got Muzz and Doughty for your top pair. That's not bad.
You know what? I'm going with a selection here that fans will love. Matt Green.
Okay.
Fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. We're going with Matt Green here. Matt G. Oh, G. Shit.
Another player that, I mean, you're building a winning team right there, which I like.
I have zero offense. You know, zero offense, all physicality, which is nothing how I have been talking about the Kings. But you know what? The board falls to me how the board falls to me.
You got Curry, you got Fox, you got Kempe, you got some scorers there.
Man, I think that I got to find somebody here. You know, I can't draft a backup goalie at all.
Yeah, that would ruin my whole strategy.
Because there's no backup goalie in our thought process here.
Yeah.
I have my backup too, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's see. Somebody drafted him. All right. Man, where do I go from here? Left defense. Or
And that says Jason LaBarbera is still on the board. Ooh,
man.
Jocks has a pick.
I went defense heavy, and I
You,
can't.
Jocks.
Where are we going?
Jocks is making some very good recommendations, and he's kind of throwing out names that
All
I'm
right.
trying to hold near and dear to my heart right now.
All right. Well,
listen to the chat, Randon. Listen to the chat.
I am listening to the chat, but I you know what? Fine. I'll listen to the chat. We're going Justin Williams here.
There you go.
Peak.
He's your
Peak
winger,
Kings.
right? I don't know if he ever played center.
I don't have a wing available.
Yeah, you're right wing on the third line, right there, right underneath where you put Williams.
Yeah, he can play center though. That's fine.
I like it. It's a very fluid lineup we got at Randy. He might not win a lot of faceoffs, but
We're gonna hit you in the mouth.
yeah. All right, Joe.
Oh, let's go with.
And I think you got Kelly Rudy playing right on your second pair, right D right now.
That is not where I want him. Rudy is definitely in goal. I see a couple of names in the chat then, and he scored such a big goal, and I'm pretty sure it was line mates with Allison. And as much as I want to take him, I'm not going to. I'll leave that to Russ, maybe.
You're so nice.
You're welcome. I am going to take Marion Gabrick.
Oh, it's another good one.
Oh, you son of a bitch. All right, so there you go. Gabby. He's right next to Chicken Parm.
You want to switch Rudy down to the goalie?
Where?
You have Rudy at right defense on Joe's team. Yeah.
No,
You
that's-
just yep.
oh, okay.
So since you didn't take him, I'll take him. And like you said, the good old LAPD line. Bash. Rudy.
Yeah.
Put Rudy.
All
Brandon.
right.
I'm gonna take Adam Deadmarsh.
Yep.
Yep. Good. So I got 2/3 of the Triple Crown line. I got 2/3 of the LAPD line. We're doing pretty good over here on Team Russell. We're not doing too bad.
Bashon. That's how you
We
spell,
took
right?
Rudy. Vashon's in your head.
He's a Hall of Famer. Who's not picking Hall of Famer? What's going on here?
H R U D E Y.
All right.
There you go. We got
For
there.
a goalie? Who the fuck is that? Sorry.
The bandana man,
Killing
Kelly
me.
Rudy,
Killing
legend.
me. Kelly Rudy.
All right. Who did you pick?
I took Adam Deadmarsh.
Where?
Right wing. Right next to Allison. Jason A.
Adam D. All right. Man.
The chat is loving.
This has gotten away from me a lot. So
Oh, I need one more.
I'm on vacation, man. This is
You are. I gotta need one more, huh? I need another winger. Oof. You know what? I'll take Granado. I'll put him on the left wing and third line. He's no Ziggy Palfy, but he's a good replacement.
Tony G. There we go.
All right, Joe. I only have one more pick.
Yeah, we're getting to the end because I think I only have two. I have 2 picks left. Oh. You know, I this is going to be. he wasn't my type of defenseman. He wasn't necessarily my type of player, but I absolutely loved watching Matty Nordstrom play. So despite him being a left shot, I'm going to pair him with Zhitnik, and he's going to play. Former captain, and again, for any Kings fans that were in those really, really down years of like the early 2000s, he was a stalwart back there, and I just love Matty Nordstrom.
I love that pick. Such an one of those players. I guess him and Ian LePerriere too. Now that I'm thinking about it, probably should have taken him just because how much I love watching those players. But you think about those teams and how bad they were. Those players, we talk with how much we talk about Blake Lizotte, how he's always left it on the ice. You'd say the same thing about LePerriere and Nordstrom. They were always losing, but you never left watching a game thinking oh, they didn't leave it all in the ice, or they didn't give their all the whole time. It was always Matty Nordstrom was always out there doing everything he could to win. And then when he eventually got traded to Dallas or signed with Dallas, it's then he got a lot of appreciation. I believe he went to the playoffs with them too. Could be wrong, but yeah, those are some of my. I just, as bad as those teams were, I love watching them play.
Yeah, looking back on them, there was some fun players.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to think Joe Corbo, he was a good player.
He was in my consideration for going there. Yeah,
Joe Corbo.
Yeah,
Matthew Schneider, I believe.
Yes, Matthew Schneider was there. Yeah.
The fact that I have been limited by my knowledge of this team, I'm gonna hit a home run with these back to back, and I don't care. I'm going Slava Voinov.
Okay.
Top. It'll be a controversial one.
It will be, but I'm going with the SV there. And then I'm going Quentin Byfield. He played the wing, and his best season was on the wing with Justin Williams and Curry there to round out my team. Quentin Byfield.
Okay.
For my last pick, I know you mentioned Ian LePerriere. I'm not going to pick him. But I'm going to pick a player sort of in his mold to play right wing with Gaborik and Ferraro on my third line. Didn't spend a ton of time.
Joe, you only have a defenseman left.
No, you put Matty Nordstrom as a winger.
Oh sorry.
Didn't spend a ton of time with the King, but was instrumental in a pretty key acquisition. And when he was with the Kings, was a fan favorite, and it was tough to see him go. And I think we're all happy that he had a pretty strong career. Wayne Simmons will be to bring a little physicality to the lineup. Will be my third line right winger.
Yeah, I like it. It was that was such a sad player to see get traded, because you can just tell him the chemistry that Doughty had together, and even Osterboller when they were playing together. Those three were so they were the young group that was the next wave, and then Braden Shen obviously too. Yeah. And then once they got traded, it was we get Mike Richards, but then Mike Richards at the time, right? He was It's okay, it makes sense.
There was Simmons, and then there was the young kids of the prospects that just never panned out. The Oscar Moeller and Andrei Laktianov. Yeah.
Laktianov played 50 plus games or so that year. They won or something crazy.
Because he was 2C for a while, you know, and they were even tried a little bit. Mike Richards playing on the wing a little bit, I think, with him, and they tried to find a spot for him. He just never worked as a winger, and he wasn't an NHL centerman. And so it didn't work out. But that is a talented player, but just didn't work.
Like how we're going down memory lane with some of these players. And there's some other players I'd love to have on my team. I mean, Paul Dimitri is another one that comes to mind.
Oh,
was so good with the Kings that 1 year. Craig Conroy had some good years.
I'm glad you mentioned him. Love Craig Conroy. Yannick Perreault back in the 90s.
I know a lot. I want to read off some of the names people mentioned in the chat too. I mean, I saw Glenn Murray. Sock to me, Kate's mentioned Glenn Murray, Josef Stumple.
Yeah.
Brian Smolinski had some good years. I mean, that 2001 team was just really fun.
Shout out to Felix Potvin.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna be my goalie pick. The
Well,
Cat.
okay.
I know. I have
I
to say,
respect
and
it.
this is more or less just because of my fandom, and
Yeah.
I watch
Yep,
like
for sure.
I know
For sure.
Rogie Vachon is the Hall of Famer. His name's up there, and my apologies to Rogie, but I was always a Felix the Cat guy. Like I loved watching the Cat play goal. He was so fun. So, and that was like right on. Like those teams were like really when I started getting into hockey. Like those early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. I loved watching those teams.
Okay.
Play.
Yeah, I thought about there were some other names. I mean, obviously, stick taps to Daryl Evans. Obviously, still with the in the Kings organization as a broadcaster. There were some shouts for Carson. Considered him. Mark Hardy, I was close to throwing on there. Joe Corvo was really close. I'm glad you mentioned his name too. Just because he, again, had an absolute bomb from the right deep. And decent skater.
I feel like we're missing like a big name.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we are, but like
Jimmy Carson, maybe.
Yeah, I mentioned him. His name was brought up in the chat.
19-year-old, yeah.
I mean, I know earlier you mentioned Butch Goring. I don't know, and again, maybe that's just our age, but like, when I think of Butch Goring, I think Islanders. I just don't think Kings, and
I think he thinks of Islanders too.
It's just, you know what I mean.
Al Smith says nobody wants third overall pick Aki Bird.
Oh dear.
Oh no, man, we're struggling over here, Al.
Yeah. So was
Daryl Sador. That's another name.
Yeah. Again, I don't know. He was fine.
I feel you. Another name, Willie Mitchell. I thought about him.
Yeah, I
think Willie Mitchell was one of the more underrated players on that team.
It's tough, right? Because we're only rostering 4D, and so you figure the big ones are going to go, right? With Blake, with Doughty, I think Murphy, obviously, and
I went defense and goalie, and I was struggling to find some centers. So you guys
were
good there.
Randon, the Kings have not been known for their offense in the last 30 years. So you have to dig way back.
Well, I was only a fan since 2011.
So right. That's what I mean. And in that era, it's been 2-1, 3-2 hockey. So you'd have to go back to the early 90s where you've got your Nichols and Robitaille and,
I think you just went I went Josh Allen. I went I went heavy in the quarterback. And I'm just going to take quarterback late. I'm going to take Dak Prescott, you're like, oh, I don't care about goalie, and I thought that you guys would want to get quick that early. And so I tried to snipe them, and, it didn't work out, but I think my team's got some physicality. I think we could play and score a little bit here, but let us know. I'll have these on Twitter tomorrow about which team do you guys like better. Thank you guys for coming out here tonight. You can always find our podcast here at hockeyroyalty.com or our articles at hockeyroyalty.com. You can find us at Twitter at NHL Russell, JW Paterino, or at Randall Commander 24. Thank you guys for coming out, and always on this podcast, go Kings go.